Let me start with something uncomfortable. You don't ignore evidence because you don't understand it. You ignore evidence because you understand exactly what it would cost you to accept it. Here's the truth most people never admit. The mind doesn't evaluate information neutrally. It evaluates it based on the threat level, not threat to survival, threat to identity. Let me explain. Think about the last time someone showed you clear evidence that challenged something you believed. Not an opinion, not an insult, actual evidence. What happened inside you first? Before words, before reasoning. There was a physical response. Tightness, irritation, defensiveness, a sudden urge to explain yourself. That reaction didn't come from logic. It came from self-protection. Because evidence doesn't just correct a belief. It questions your judgment, your past decisions, your competence, your story about yourself, and the brain treats that like danger. Now watch how this plays out in real life. Someone questions your plan. Instead of asking, "Is this accurate?" your mind jumps to, "They don't see the full picture. They're being negative. They don't understand how hard this is. They have their own bias." Maybe they do, but notice what happened. You didn't examine the evidence. You examined the person. That's not stupidity. That's defense. Now here's the deeper mechanism. Your beliefs are not isolated thoughts. They're structural supports. They hold up. Your self-respect, your past choices, your sacrifices, your time invested. So when evidence threatens a belief, it threatens everything built on top of it. If this is wrong, was I wrong to stay? Was I wrong to commit? Was I wrong to trust? Was I wrong about myself? Those questions are heavy, so the mind avoids them, not consciously, automatically. Now notice how selective this blindness is. When evidence supports what you already believe, you accept it instantly. When evidence challenges you, suddenly you become critical. You demand perfect data. Flawless sources, absolute certainty. That's not skepticism, that's asymmetry. You don't want truth, you want protection. Now let's make this personal. Think about beliefs you've held for a long time, about money, about relationships, about your abilities, about what's realistic for someone like you. How many small signals contradicted them? A pattern you ignored, a warning you downplayed, a result that didn't fit the story. You didn't reject them aggressively. You softened them. It's just an exception. It's more complicated than that. That doesn't really apply here. Each time, the belief survived. Not because it was true, but because it was defended. Now here's a hard truth. Ignoring threatening evidence often feels intelligent. You tell yourself, "I'm thinking critically. I'm not being naive. I'm not overreacting." But real critical thinking moves toward discomfort. Defensive thinking moves away from it. Now look at authority and power. Why do leaders double down when facts turn against them? Because admitting error doesn't just change a decision, it collapses legitimacy. So they reframe failure, they reinterpret facts, they shift blame, they change definitions, and followers often help. Because accepting the evidence would mean admitting, "I followed the wrong person." That's painful, so the group protects the story. Now here's the deepest layer. Sometimes you ignore evidence not because it's wrong, but because accepting it would require action. If this is true, I'd have to leave. I'd have to confront someone. I'd have to change habits. I'd have to admit I waited too long. So the mind says, "Let's not know this yet." That's not ignorance. That's delay disguised as intelligence. Now here's the shift strong people make. They don't trust their first reaction to evidence. They expect resistance inside themselves. When something feels threatening, they slow down instead of pushing back. They ask, "If this were true, what would it force me to reconsider? What am I protecting right now? What does my discomfort reveal?" They understand this rule. The stronger the emotional reaction, the more important the information usually is. Now, listen carefully. The beliefs you defend most aggressively are often the ones costing you the most. The evidence you dismiss fastest is usually the evidence pointing at the real problem. And the moment you stop asking, how do I protect this belief? And start asking, what if this is true? That's the moment your thinking stops being safe and starts being powerful. This was why you ignore evidence that threatens you. Stay sharp.
Thanks for spending time with us. If this sparked a new way of thinking, hit like and subscribe to keep the ideas flowing. And don't forget, check the description for the links to the resources and the original books we used today. We'll see you in the next one.